Hey y'all, this is Miss Marty and I am making you a video today because this is one of my favorite lessons to teach. Any quadratic equation or equation of a parabola. A quadratic equation is an equation that creates a parabola when graphed. So in the form that we saw it before today, we always saw something that looked similar to y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c were some numbers. But now today, we're setting that whole thing equal to 0, so replacing y with 0. So what we're trying to find is where the graph crosses the x-axis. So if your graph looks like the one in the upper right-hand corner, you see that the value of y in this coordinate, no matter what that x value is, that y value is 0. So that's what we're doing this for, is we're always just trying to figure out where the graph crosses the x-axis. We find those numbers by using this formula, which some mathematician or mathematicians somewhere figured out that no matter what, those 2 points where it crosses the x-axis can always be defined as, brace yourselves, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You are going to have this stuck in your head during my class. It is my goal to make sure that this gets stuck in your head. So we are going to solve x squared minus 5x equals 14 by using the quadratic formula. In order to do so, we first have to take that whole equation and make it equal to 0. In order to make it equal to 0, we need to subtract 14 from both sides, and they did that without writing it down. So we're going to subtract 14 from both sides, and numbers and letters don't add. So I'm going to make that a little neater. Negative 5x minus 14 just turns into negative 5x minus 14. And we are going to plug that into the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But we need to replace b with its value, a with its value, and c with its value. Remembering that any quadratic equation can be written y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, which means in this case that a is 1 because there's nothing there, right? What times x squared is x squared? 1 times x squared is x squared. So our a value is 1, our b value is negative 5, and our c value is negative 14. So when we go to replace those in our song, we have x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4, 1, negative 14, all over 2 times 1. Now, there is a big mistake that a lot of you have been making in your calculators for a long time. If you look at this right here, if you put that in your calculator, you may be typing in negative 5 squared. Well, negative 5 squared equals negative 25. But, oh my gosh, negative 5 squared equals positive 25. What is happening there? In one of them, you are not squaring the negative. In the other one, you are squaring the negative. So over here on the right-hand side, you've got a negative times a negative is a positive, and you are correct. Over there on the left-hand side, for some reason, for some crazy crackhead reason, you did not square the negative. Well, the negative is part of the number, so that is entirely incorrect. Dum dum dum. So that is wrongo. No, no, no. Always put your negative in the parentheses with that negative number because that negative is part of that number. Okay, so we go back and we sing our song again. X equals negative negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 14 all over 2 times 1, which is the same as x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And yes, you will be expected to sing this. And yes, I'm going to figure out a way to have you do that. So, we're going to simplify. Negative negative 5 is just positive 5 plus or minus the square root I'm writing over that. I don't have a choice. Negative 5 squared is 25. 4 times 14. Well, 2 times 14 is 28. 28 times 2 is 56. So this whole thing is 56. And that whole entire thing is divided by 2. Oh, no, I can't write that small. 25 plus 56 is 81. 5 plus or minus 81, all divided by 2. Well, the square root of 81 is 9. So we really have 5 plus or minus 9 divided by 2. Now, there's something I'm saying in here that we need to talk about. If you've been listening to me, you've been hearing me say something like, I don't know, somewhere in there I've been saying plus or minus. In this case, just before I wrote this down, I said 5 plus or minus 9. Well, we can rewrite that. We can rephrase that in a way that makes more mathematical sense. We can write it instead as 5 plus 9 divided by 2, or 5 minus 9 divided by 2. All I did was right there was move the or. So 5 plus 9 divided by 2 is just 14 divided by 2. And 5 minus 9 divided by 2 is negative 4 divided by 2, which gives us our answers of 7 or negative 2. Both answers are correct because if you were to graph this on your calculator, you would see that it crosses the x-axis at both positive 7 and negative 2. Now, things get more interesting, but we're going to do a few examples first. So we're going to start with example number 1, x squared plus 2x minus 35 equals 0. We're going to solve by using the quadratic formula. So we're going to go in and we're going to use x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we have x equals negative 2 plus or minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 35 all over 2 times 1. Yes, it's very hard to sing sometimes, but it'll get stuck in your head. And one time I had a student who was in her 20s tell me that it helped her with her certification exam to become a teacher, and now she teaches elementary school. 4 times 35 is 2 times 35, which is 70 times 2, which is 140. So we have 140 under there. Boom. All over 2a. So we have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 144. What's the square root of 144? Oh my gosh. You're correct. It is 12. So in our next step, we have negative 2 plus or minus 12 divided by 2. Now let's break that up into two different bits. Let's move our or. So we have negative 2 plus 12 divided by 2, and negative 2 minus 12 divided by 2. Negative 2 plus 12 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. That's one of our answers. Our other answer, negative 2 minus 12 is negative 14. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. That's our other answer. So we have, as our roots, x, or as our answer, x equals 5, or x equals -7. That is our whole entire answer. Well, let's see. Let's try this same problem and change some things around. Let's try the same thing, and it looks like the same thing, but it's y equals x squared plus 2x plus 35. And we use x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, which in this case is x equals -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 35 all over 2 times 1. So we have x equals -2 plus or minus square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 35 all over 2 times 1. Oh my gosh, but look what happens. Look what happens. This is crazy. What do? I'm going to cry. Oh no. Look, we have 4 minus 140. What is 4 minus 140? 4 minus 140 is negative 136. Can you square root a negative number? Well, next semester you're going to be able to, but right now you cannot. So, what does your graph look like when you have something kooky going on, when you have no answer? Well, think about it. We're looking at when the graph crosses the x-axis. Well, maybe you have a graph that never crosses the x-axis. So we say that this has no solution. So when you get a negative under that square root, no solution is your answer. But wait, there's more. You could also have something. I'm going to try to tweak the same equation. So we're going to look at, using the same directions, y equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. And we're going to use, that really should say 0, shouldn't it? Let me fix that. There, 0. So x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And what we see is that we have -2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 4. What's 4 minus 4? Oh my gosh, it's 0. So we have -2 plus or minus 0. It doesn't matter if you add or subtract nothing, you still get the same answer. So -2 plus or minus 0 is just -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. We only have one answer. What does that mean about your graph? That means that your graph only crosses at one point. And in fact, it doesn't cross. It just bounces there. Give me a second. It crosses at -1 or bounces at -1, and your graph looks something like that. And, well, it should really touch there, but that's as close as I can get with my silly marker. So, you could have a graph that crosses twice. Oh, I didn't graph that one. Let me graph that one real quick for you. It would cross at 5 and -7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And -7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. Oops, I didn't cross quite right, but you get it. Let me try that again. That's a little bit better. Okay, so it's crossing at 5 and -7 in that one. So you could have two solutions. You could have no solution, or you could have only one solution. So right here, x equals -1, one solution. Okay, onwards and upwards. So to recap really quickly, you could have two y-intercepts giving you two solutions. You could have no y-intercepts giving you no solution. Or you could have x-intercepts. I can't believe I said y-intercepts. You could have two x-intercepts giving you two solutions, no x-intercepts giving you no solution, or one x-intercept giving you one solution. There is something that helps you figure this out. It is the number under the square root. Either the number under the square root is positive, giving you two solutions, just like this one right here, or it's 0, giving you one solution. That hardly ever happens, sadly, in real life. Or you could have no solutions. No solutions, sadly, happens a lot. We all wish everything had a solution. So the way they talk about this in math is super stuffy and formal. They call the thing under the square root, so the thing under the square root, as in x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Boom. We're talking about the stuff right under the square root. We're talking about b squared minus 4ac. That's the piece that's called the discriminant. And that piece called the discriminant, if it is positive, you have two rational roots. If it is negative, you have no solution. It never crosses the x-axis. They say here it's two complex roots. I'm going to write down. So I'm trying. 2 x-intercepts. Then this one would be 1 x-intercept. And the last one would be no x-intercept. Beautiful. That's what we just went over, and when we look at this in some examples, we see that we can solve really simply for these. And I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3 real quick. So the first thing you always need to do is you need to set your equation equal to 0. So I added 4 to both sides. So I end up with p squared plus 12p plus 4 equals 0. And then we put it into x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But in this case, it's p equals -12 plus or minus the square root. But all I care about is the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And all I care about is what's in that square root. That is really important right now because you don't want to waste your time doing more than is expected of you, particularly when they're trying to make the question easier, even though it really isn't. 12 squared minus, oh goodness, that was my alarm that it's asynchronous time for second period. 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4, which is 16. That is 144 minus 16, which is bigger than 0. So how many solutions do we have? We have that number is bigger than 0. You don't have to do anything more. You don't even have to figure out what that number is. You have 2 solutions. Most of the time, when you're talking about the discriminant, all you need to do is figure out what that is. We're going to cross off this for now because we already talked about that a lot. Next one, 9x squared minus 6x plus 1, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And again, we are only interested in the discriminant, so we're only interested in square root of b squared, remember to put that in parentheses, minus 4ac all over 2a. We don't need that part. So here, negative 6 squared is 36. 9 times 4 is 36. That's 0. When the discriminant is 0, you have one solution. Then we move on to number 3. Oh, I'll bet it's going to be no solution because you know how the book is. Okay, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, but all we need is that part. So we have 49 plus 16 times 2 is 32. Hey, I was wrong. Look at that. That's the square root of 81. Wait, just a minute. Maybe I was right. That one was one solution. This also is one solution. That's just one number, one solution. We didn't find the solution, but we discovered that it is in fact 0. The only time you're going to get no solution is if it is less than 0. Again, your answer will be no solution. Ooh, that works out fancy, huh? Your answer will be no solution. Ooh, I'm trying so hard to use this tool. No, that still doesn't work. Your answer will be no solution when b squared minus 4ac is negative, or also put b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Boom, boom, boom. Important part right there. Okay. That is all I have for you today. I hope y'all have a fabulous evening. Y'all take care. Good luck on the homework. Assignment. I keep calling it homework. I should not do that. It confuses you. It confuses me. It confuses the birds. And it confuses even the cockroaches. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.